Whispering Pines, Idaho Territory. Late fall, 1880. Violet Callahan stood on the porch of her ranch house, watching the cold rain turn the road to mud, and knew she had less than a week before the bank took everything her parents had built. She was 32, a schoolteacher with dark chestnut hair, pinned back in a simple bun, brown eyes that had learned not to trust easily, and a ranch that needed 3 hands and money she did not have. Her mother had died 2 years ago, her father 6 months after, and the spring roundup was still 4 months away. The cattle needed feed she could not afford. The roof leaked in 2 places. And today a bank clerk was riding out to make an offer she would have to refuse. She clutched the music box her mother had left her, the one with the engraved roses on the lid, and wondered how many more nights she could hold on. The rider appeared through the rain, a man in a brown suit and dark vest, riding a bay horse with the careful posture of someone who spent more time at a desk than in a saddle. He tied his horse at the post and climbed the steps, hat dripping, and Violet saw he was young, maybe 34 or 35, with sandy brown hair and blue-gray eyes that looked tired.
Miss Callahan, I am Jude Donovan, from the First Territorial Bank in Boise. May I come in?
She stepped aside without a word and led him into the parlor, where the stove fought a losing battle against the cold. He took off his hat and held it in both hands, looking around at the worn furniture and the water stain spreading on the ceiling.
I will be direct. The bank holds your note, and you are 4 months behind. I have been authorized to offer you $1,200 for the land and buildings. You would have 60 days to vacate.
That land is worth $3,000 at least.
Not in late fall with winter coming and no hands to work it. Miss Callahan, I have looked at your accounts. You cannot make the spring roundup without money you do not have. This offer lets you walk away with something.
Walk away to where? This is my home.
I understand, but the bank will foreclose in a week if you do not pay. I am trying to help you.
She wanted to throw him out, but she saw something in his face that stopped her. A flicker of doubt, as if he did not believe his own words.
Why does the bank want this land so badly? There are 5 other ranches in this valley in worse shape than mine.
I do not make those decisions. I just deliver the offer.
Then deliver this back. I am not selling.
He stood there for a moment, rain drumming on the roof, and she saw his jaw tighten.
Miss Callahan, there are rumors in town about you and Dr. Pembroke. People say he has been seen riding out here.
Lucian Pembroke is a liar and a coward. Whatever he told you is a lie.
He says you were engaged, and you broke it off. He says you owe him money.
I owe him nothing. He wanted this ranch, not me. When I refused him, he started spreading lies. Now, get out.
Jude Donovan put his hat back on and walked to the door, then stopped.
For what it is worth, I do not think you are a liar, but I think you are in more trouble than you know.
He left, and Violet watched him ride back into the rain. She set the music box on the table and opened the lid, letting the tiny melody play, the one her mother had wound every night before bed. The sound made her chest ache. That night, she lay awake listening to the rain and thinking about Jude Donovan's face, the way he had looked at her as if he wanted to say something else. In town, Jude sat in his room at the boarding house and wrote a letter to his supervisor in Boise. But he tore it up before he finished. He had been a bank clerk for 8 years, moving from town to town, delivering bad news and watching people lose their homes, and he was tired of it. He had taken this job because he thought it was honest work, But in the last 6 months, he had started to see the pattern. The bank always wanted land near the trade routes. Always made offers right before winter. Always sent him to deliver them. He thought about Violet Callahan's brown eyes and the way she had held that music box, and he knew she was telling the truth about Pembroke. He had met the doctor once, a tall man with dark hair and a smooth voice, and he had not liked him. The next morning, Jude rode back out to the Callahan ranch, and Violet met him on the porch with a shotgun.
I told you no.
I am not here for the bank. I am here because I think Dr. Pembroke is lying about more than just you.
She lowered the shotgun an inch.
What do you mean?
I went through the bank records last night. In the last year, 5 ranchers in this valley have died suddenly. All of them had loans. All of them were declared dead by Dr. Pembroke. All of their land went to auction and was bought by a holding company in Boise. Miss Callahan, I think Pembroke is killing people and covering it up.
That is insane.
Is it? Your father died 6 months ago. Pembroke signed the death certificate. Heart failure, it said. Was your father sick?
Violet felt the blood drain from her face.
No. He was healthy. He fell off his horse and hit his head, but Lucian said he had a weak heart, and the fall triggered it. I believed him, because he was the doctor.
And now Pembroke wants your land, and the bank wants to foreclose. Miss Callahan, I think you are in danger.
She led him inside, and they sat at the kitchen table while the rain fell. Jude spread out the papers he had brought, and Violet saw the names of men she had known, ranchers who had been her father's friends. All dead in the last year. All declared by Pembroke.
Why would he do this?
I do not know yet, but I am going to find out.
Over the next 3 days, they worked together. Jude went through the bank records, and Violet talked to the widows, asking careful questions. They learned that Pembroke had been the last person to see each man alive, that he had been called to sudden emergencies that no one else witnessed. They learned that the holding company buying the land was owned by a man named Silas Vance, who lived in Boise and had ties to a smuggling operation running guns and stolen goods through the territory. They learned that the sheriff, a man named Coleman, had taken money from Vance to look the other way. And they learned that Pembroke was Vance's partner, using his position as a doctor to eliminate anyone who might interfere with their operation.
We have to go to the territorial marshal.
By the time we reach him, Pembroke will know, and we will both be dead. Miss Callahan, he has hired guns. I saw 2 men watching your ranch yesterday.
Violet looked at the music box on the shelf.
My mother left me something. I did not understand it until now.
She brought down the music box and opened the hidden compartment in the base, the one her mother had shown her when she was a girl. Inside was a folded letter and a small leather pouch. The letter was addressed to her father, written by a rancher named Thomas Gray, one of the men who had died. It said that Gray had discovered Pembroke was falsifying death certificates and planned to report him to the marshal. It said that if anything happened to Gray, the letter was proof of what Pembroke had done. The pouch contained a silver badge, a deputy marshal's badge that Gray had carried before he retired.
My mother knew. She must have hidden this before she died.
This clears Gray's name and proves Pembroke is a murderer. But if we use it, Pembroke will know your mother was involved. He will destroy her memory.
She would want me to use it. She would want the truth.
That night, they rode into Whispering Pines together. The town was quiet, the streets empty in the cold rain. They went to the dance hall, a big wooden building at the center of town, where Pembroke was holding a fundraiser for the new church. Violet knew he would be there, playing the respectable citizen, and she knew this was their only chance. They waited outside until the guests started to leave, and then they walked in through the back door. The hall was nearly empty now, just a few men cleaning up, and Pembroke standing near the stage, talking to the sheriff. Violet stepped into the light, and Pembroke turned. His face went white.
Hello, Lucian.
Pembroke recovered quickly, his smile sliding back into place. The sheriff stepped forward, hand on his gun, but Jude moved between them.
Sheriff Coleman, I have evidence that Dr. Pembroke has been falsifying death certificates and murdering ranchers to cover a smuggling operation. I am placing him under citizen's arrest until the territorial marshal can be summoned.
The sheriff laughed.
You are a bank clerk. You have no authority here. But this does.
Jude held up the deputy marshal's badge. It was old and tarnished, but it was real. Thomas Gray had never turned it in when he retired, and territorial law said a deputy's authority lasted until revoked.
This badge belonged to Thomas Gray. He suspected Pembroke and was going to report him. Pembroke killed him and made it look like a heart attack. We have his letter as proof.
Pembroke's face went dark.
That is a lie. Gray was a sick old man.
My mother hid his letter before she died. She knew what you were, Lucian. She knew you killed my father.
The sheriff drew his gun, but Jude was faster. He pulled a revolver from his coat and aimed it at the sheriff.
Do not.
The room froze. Pembroke looked around, saw the cleaning crew watching, saw the door open, and people gathering outside, drawn by the voices. He played his last card, stepping forward with his hands out, his voice breaking.
Violet. Please. I loved you. I only wanted to help you. These accusations are madness. I am a doctor. I save lives.
You killed my father. You killed Thomas Gray and 4 other men. You falsified their death certificates so Silas Vance could steal their land. And you wanted my ranch so you could finish your smuggling route before the land office closed.
You have no proof.
Violet held up the letter and the badge.
I have both. And I have witnesses.
Pembroke's face twisted. He lunged at Violet, but Jude fired a shot into the ceiling, and the doctor stopped.
It is over. Pembroke.
The sheriff tried to back toward the door, but 2 of the townsmen blocked him. One of them was a rancher, whose brother had died under Pembroke's care, and his face was hard. The crowd outside grew larger, and Violet heard voices calling for the marshal, calling for justice. Pembroke saw he was trapped, and his face went from rage to pleading.
I can pay you. Violet, I can make you rich. Just let me go.
No.
The territorial marshal arrived 2 days later and took Pembroke and Sheriff Coleman into custody. The trial was held in Boise 3 weeks later, and the letter and badge were enough to convict them both. Silas Vance was arrested in his home, and his smuggling operation was shut down. The widows got their land back, and Thomas Gray's name was cleared. The bank forgave Violet's loan as part of the settlement, and she kept her ranch. On the night of the confrontation, after the marshal's deputy had taken Pembroke away and the crowd had gone home, Violet and Jude stood alone in the empty dance hall. The oil lamps were turned low, and the rain had stopped. leaving the night cold and clear. Violet still held the music box in her hands.
Thank you.
You did not need me. You would have fought him alone.
I would have lost.
No. You would have found another way. You are the strongest person I have ever met.
She looked at him. This man who had ridden out to take her land, and instead had risked his life to save it.
What will you do now?
I quit the bank. I sent my letter of resignation yesterday. I am done taking people's homes.
What will you do instead?
I do not know. I thought maybe I could learn to run a ranch. If someone would teach me.
Violet smiled, and it was the first real smile she had felt in months.
I might know someone.
I have to tell you something. I came here to lie to you. The bank sent me to pressure you into selling. I was going to tell you whatever it took to make you sign. I have been doing that for 8 years. I am not proud of it.
But you stopped.
I stopped because I met you. Violet, I have never met anyone like you. You were losing everything, and you still would not break. You made me want to be better.
I am not that strong, Jude. I was terrified. I thought I was going to lose everything my parents built.
But you did not give up.
Neither did you. You could have delivered the offer and left. You could have stayed safe.
I could not. Not after I met you.
She set the music box on the edge of the stage and stepped closer to him.
Lucian wanted this ranch. He never wanted me. You risked everything for someone you barely knew.
I know you, Violet. I know you are brave and stubborn, and you do not trust easily. I know you loved your parents, and you would do anything to protect their memory. I know you play that music box every night because it makes you feel less alone. And I know I have never felt this way about anyone.
What way?
Like I would fight the whole territory to keep you safe. Like I would give up everything just to see you smile. Violet, I am falling in love with you.
She reached up and touched his face, and her hand was shaking.
I do not know if I can trust this. I trusted Lucian, and he tried to destroy me.
I am not him. I will spend every day proving that if you let me.
I am difficult. I do not take help easily. I have been alone so long, I do not know how to be anything else.
Then, we will learn together.
She kissed him, and it was soft and careful, as if they were both afraid it might break. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet.
I am scared.
So am I.
Stay with me. Help me run this ranch. Teach me how to trust someone again.
I will stay as long as you want me.
I want you. Forever.
He kissed her again, deeper this time, and she felt the fear start to fade. The music box sat on the stage behind them, silent now, its purpose fulfilled. Outside, the stars were bright over whispering pines, and the cold night air smelled like rain and pine and the promise of spring. Violet Callahan had fought for her home and won, and she had found something she had not been looking for. A partner who saw her strength and loved her for it. A man who had learned to be brave by watching her refuse to break. They stood in the empty dance hall until the lamps burned low, and when they finally walked out into the night, they walked together, hand in hand, toward the ranch that was now theirs. The music box stayed behind on the stage, its engraved roses catching the last of the lamplight, a reminder of the woman who had hidden the truth, and the daughter who had brought it into the light. Violet knew her mother would be proud. She knew her father would have liked Jude, would have seen the good heart under the careful mask. And she knew that the ranch would survive, not just until spring, but for years to come, because she was not alone anymore.
What will we do first?
Fix the roof. Buy feed for the cattle. Hire hands for the spring round up.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is. Are you ready?
With you, I am ready for anything.
They reached her horse and his, tied at the rail, and mounted up. The ride back to the ranch was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm, when the world feels clean and new. Violet looked at Jude riding beside her, and felt something settle in her chest, a certainty she had not felt since her parents died. This was right. This was home. And this man, who had come to take her land and stayed to fight for her, was the one she had been waiting for without knowing it. When they reached the ranch, the house was dark and cold, but it did not feel empty anymore. Jude helped her unsaddle the horses, and they stood in the barn for a moment, listening to the animals settle.
You can stay in the spare room tonight.
All right.
Or you can stay with me.
He looked at her, and she saw the heat in his eyes, but also the restraint.
Violet, I do not want to rush this.
I am not rushing. I am choosing. I am choosing you, Jude.
Are you sure?
I have never been more sure of anything.
She took his hand and led him into the house, and they did not speak again until morning. The next weeks were hard work, but they were not alone. Jude learned to mend fences and tend cattle, and Violet taught him with patience she had not known she had. He was clumsy at first, his hands soft from years of desk work, but he learned fast, and he never complained. At night, they sat by the stove and talked about the future, about the ranch and the spring roundup, and the life they were building. Violet played the music box sometimes, and Jude listened without asking questions, understanding that it was her way of keeping her mother close. The townspeople came to accept them, and Jude found that he liked the work, liked the feeling of building something instead of tearing it down. He wrote to his family in Ohio and told them he was staying in Idaho, that he had met someone and was learning to be a rancher. His mother wrote back with caution, but his father sent his blessing and a small sum of money to help with the spring expenses. Violet read the letter and cried, because it reminded her of her own father, who had always believed in second chances.
Your father sounds like a good man.
He is. I think he would like you.
I hope so.
Violet, I want to marry you.
She looked up from the letter, her heart pounding.
Are you asking?
I am asking. I do not have a ring yet, but I will get one. I want to do this right.
I do not need a ring, Jude. I just need you.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
He kissed her, and she tasted salt on his lips, realized he was crying. She held him and felt his arms tighten around her, and she knew this was what love was supposed to feel like. Safe and fierce and unbreakable. They were married in the spring, a small ceremony in the Whispering Pines church with the townspeople who had stood by them. Violet wore her mother's dress, altered to fit, and Jude wore a new suit he had bought with the last of his savings. The preacher was new, sent by the territorial bishop after the old one had retired. And he spoke about faith and resilience and the strength it takes to build a life in a hard land. After the ceremony, they went back to the ranch and worked side by side, planting a garden and repairing the barn and getting ready for the roundup. The cattle were healthy and the prices were good, and by the end of the season, they had enough to pay off the rest of the debts and start saving for the future. Violet kept the music box on the mantel, and sometimes at night she would wind it and let the melody play while she and Jude sat together, his arm around her shoulders, her head on his chest. They talked about children, about expanding the ranch, about growing old together in the house her parents had built. And they talked about the night in the dance hall, the night they had spoken the truth out loud and everything had changed.
Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had not come back that second day?
You would have come back eventually. You are not the kind of man who walks away.
I was. Once.
But you changed.
You changed me.
We changed each other.
She kissed him, and the music box played on, the melody her mother had loved, the sound of home and memory, and the future they were making together. Outside, the stars shone over the Idaho Territory, and the land stretched out in all directions, wild and beautiful, and theirs. Violet Callahan Donovan had fought for her home and won, and in winning, she had found something more precious than land, or money, or safety. She had found love, the kind that does not break, the kind that grows stronger with every storm. And Jude Donovan, who had spent 8 years taking people's homes, had finally found his own. They sat together in the quiet house, listening to the music box and the wind in the pines, and they were content. The story of the doctor and the smuggling ring became legend in Whispering Pines, told around fires and in saloons, a reminder that justice could still be found even in a hard land. Thomas Gray's name was cleared, and his widow erected a marker in his honor. The other widows rebuilt their lives, and some of them remarried, and the valley grew prosperous again. Violet and Jude became pillars of the community, known for their fairness and their hard work. They hired hands and paid them well, and they never turned away a neighbor in need. The ranch thrived, and over the years they added more land, more cattle, more dreams. And every night, Violet wound the music box and let it play. And every night, Jude held her close. And they remembered the night in the empty dance hall, when they had spoken the truth and found each other.
I love you, Jude Donovan.
I love you, Violet Donovan.
And in the empty dance hall in Whispering Pines, where it all had ended and begun, the dust settled on the old wooden floor, and the lamps stayed dark, and the memory of two people who had refused to give up became part of the town's history. A story told to children and strangers. A reminder that love and courage can change the world. The hired guns stepped through the doorway, water dripping from their hats. Jude kept his revolver steady. One of them, a scarred man with a tobacco-stained beard, spat onto the floor.
You two are making this harder than it needs to be. The doc just wants his property back.
Violet raised the shotgun higher.
This is my land. My home. And that music box proves what he did.
The second man, younger but just as mean, laughed.
Lady, that trinket proves nothing. You hand it over. We all walk away.
Jude glanced at Violet, saw the fire in her eyes, the set of her jaw. She would not bend. He turned back to the men.
You walk away now, or you explain to the marshal why you were threatening a woman in her own barn.
The scarred man's hand drifted toward his holster. Jude cocked the hammer. The click echoed in the silence. For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. Then the younger man took a step back.
This ain't worth dying over.
The scarred man hesitated, then cursed and backed out. Their footsteps faded into the rain. Violet lowered the shotgun, her hands shaking.
They will come back.
Not tonight. Tonight we ride to the land office.
She turned to him, confusion crossing her face.
The office is closed.
The clerk lives above it. I know him. He owes me a favor. If we register that music box as evidence tonight, it becomes official record. Pembroke can't touch it.
Violet nodded slowly.
Then, we ride now.
They saddled 2 horses in the dark, working quickly, the rain drumming on the roof. Violet tucked the music box into her saddlebag, wrapping it in oilcloth. Jude checked the loads in his revolver, slid it back into his belt. They led the horses out into the storm. The wind hit them like a fist, cold and relentless. Violet pulled her shawl tight and swung into the saddle. Jude mounted beside her.
Stay close. If we get separated, head for the land office.
I am not leaving you.
He met her eyes, saw the steel there, and nodded. They spurred the horses forward into the night. The trail to town was a river of mud. The horses slipped and strained, their breath white in the cold air. Violet leaned low over the saddle, rain lashing her face. Behind them, she heard hoofbeats. She looked back. 3 riders, dark shapes against the storm.
They are following.
Jude glanced over his shoulder, cursed.
Ride hard. Do not stop.
They kicked the horses into a gallop. The town lights appeared ahead, faint and wavering through the rain. The hoofbeats behind them grew louder. A shot cracked out, wild, lost in the storm. Violet crouched lower. The horses pounded through the mud, straining, gasping. The town gate loomed ahead. Jude shouted at the watchman, who scrambled to open it. They burst through, hooves clattering on the wooden boardwalk. The riders behind them slowed, pulling up short at the gate. The watchman slammed it shut. Violet and Jude reined in hard, the horses skidding.
The land office. Where?
Jude pointed down the street. They dismounted and ran, leading the horses. The building was dark, shuttered. Jude pounded on the side door.
Elias! Open up!
A window above creaked open. A balding man in a nightshirt peered out.
Jude Donovan? What in blazes? I need you to witness a registry. Right now.
The man grumbled, but disappeared. A minute later, the door opened. Elias held a lamp, squinting at them.
This better be good.
Jude pulled Violet inside. She unwrapped the music box, set it on the counter. Elias leaned close, examining it.
What is this about? This box contains a letter that proves Dr. Pembroke falsified a death certificate. We need it registered as evidence tonight.
Elias looked from Jude to Violet, then back at the box.
If Pembroke finds out I helped you, he will come after me.
He is coming after all of us. But if you register it now, it is on record. He cannot make it disappear.
Elias hesitated, then sighed.
Fine. Give me the details.
Violet explained quickly, her voice steady despite the exhaustion. Elias wrote it down, stamped the ledger, handed her a receipt.
Done. Now get out of here before someone sees you.
They thanked him and stepped back into the rain. The street was empty, but Violet felt eyes watching from the shadows.
Where now?
The old dance hall. It is closed for the season. We can hide there until morning.
They led the horses through the back alleys, moving quietly. The dance hall stood at the edge of town, a tall wooden building with peeling paint. Jude forced the side door open. Inside, it was dark and cold, the air thick with dust. He lit a small lantern, casting weak light over the empty floor. Violet tied the horses in a corner stall, then sank onto a bench, her dress soaked and heavy. Jude sat beside her, his coat dripping. For a long moment, neither spoke.
Thank you.
He looked at her, surprised.
For believing me. For standing with me.
I should have stood with you from the start.
You did not know me.
I know you now.
She met his eyes, and something shifted between them. Something unspoken, but clear.
When this is over, what will you do?
I do not know. I thought I had a plan. Work for the bank, buy land, build something safe. But that plan feels hollow now.
Why?
Because it was built on lies, on taking from people like you.
You did not take from me. You chose me.
He reached for her hand, his fingers rough and warm.
I did. And I would choose you again.
She squeezed his hand, her throat tight.
I have spent so long holding everything together, being strong, being enough. I did not think I could let anyone in.
You do not have to do it alone anymore.
She leaned her head against his shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her. They sat in the empty hall, listening to the rain on the roof, the storm finally easing.
What happens when Pembroke finds out the box is registered?
He will try to discredit it, try to silence us. But the marshal from Boise is due in 2 days. If we can hold out until then, we can tell him everything.
2 days.
2 days.
She closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling at her.
I can do 2 days.
We can do 2 days.
Outside, the wind died down. The rain slowed to a drizzle. Violet lifted her head, looked around the empty hall.
I used to come here. When I was younger, my mother would bring me to the dances.
What was she like?
Strong. Kind. She taught me to stand up for myself. To never let anyone make me small.
She would be proud of you.
I hope so.
Jude stood, walked to the center of the hall, turned back to her.
Dance. With me.
She blinked, surprised.
What?
Dance with me. No music. No crowd. Just us.
She stood slowly, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion.
You are out of your mind.
Probably.
She walked to him, took his hand. He placed his other hand on her waist, and they began to move, slow and clumsy, no rhythm but their own. She laughed, soft and tired, and he smiled.
You are terrible at this.
I know.
They swayed together in the dim light, the world outside forgotten. For a moment, there was no danger, no threat, no fear, just the two of them, holding on.
Jude,
Yes.
I love you.
He stopped moving, looked down at her, his face open and honest.
I love you too.
She reached up, touched his face, and he leaned down and kissed her. It was soft and sure, a promise made without words. When they pulled apart, she was smiling, tears on her cheeks.
We are going to make it.
Yes. We are.
They held each other in the empty hall, the night stretching out around them. Outside, the storm was over. The first light of dawn touched the horizon. 2 days later, the marshal arrived. Violet and Jude met him at the land office, the music box and its letter laid out on the table. The marshal listened, his face hard, then rode out to arrest Pembroke. The doctor tried to run, but his hired guns had scattered. He was taken in chains to Boise to stand trial. The smuggling operation collapsed. The death certificates were reviewed. 3 innocent men were exonerated posthumously. Violet kept her ranch. Jude left the bank, took a job with the land office helping settlers file honest claims. He moved into the ranch house that winter. They married in the spring, in the same dance hall where they had held each other in the dark. Violet wore her mother's music box pinned to her dress. Jude wore a new suit, bought with money he had earned honestly. The whole town came. They danced until the lanterns burned low, and when the music stopped, they walked home together under the stars, hand in hand. Ready for whatever came. The first months were hard. Winter came early that year, snow piling high against the barn, wind howling through the gaps in the walls. Jude learned to mend fences, to break ice on the water troughs, to calm nervous cattle when the wolves came too close. Violet taught him, patient and firm, and he listened. He was clumsy at first, his hands unused to the work, but he kept at it. She watched him from the porch sometimes, coffee cup in hand, and felt something warm settle in her chest. He was staying. He was really staying. The ranch began to recover. With Jude working the land and Violet managing the books, they made it through the worst of the season. They lost fewer head than she had feared. By February, the calves started coming, wobbly-legged and bleeding in the cold. Jude stayed up 3 nights straight with a sick calf, wrapped in blankets in the barn, feeding it warm milk from a bottle. The calf lived. Violet found him asleep in the straw the next morning, the calf curled against his chest. She knelt beside him, brushed the hair from his face, and he opened his eyes.
Did she make it?
She made it. Thanks to you.
Good.
He smiled, exhausted, and she kissed his forehead.
Come inside. You need rest.
In a minute.
But he fell asleep again, and she stayed with him, her hand on his shoulder, until the sun was high. In March, the circuit preacher came through. Violet and Jude stood before him in the small wooden church. Their friends gathered around. Violet wore a simple white dress she had sewn herself, lace at the collar, her mother's music box pinned over her heart. Jude wore a dark suit, his hands scrubbed clean, his hair combed back. The preacher asked if they would take each other, and they said yes. Their voices were steady. When he told Jude to kiss his bride, Jude cupped her face in his hands and kissed her gently, and the church erupted in cheers. They held a supper at the dance hall that night, tables laden with food brought by neighbors, lanterns strung across the rafters. They danced until midnight, Violet laughing as Jude spun her in circles, still clumsy but better than before. When the crowd thinned, they slipped outside, walked hand in hand down the quiet street. The stars were bright overhead, the air cool and clean.
I never thought I would have this.
Neither did I.
I am glad it is you.
Me too.
They stopped at the edge of town, looked back at the lights, then turned toward home. The ranch waited. The cattle settled for the night, the house dark and quiet. They climbed the steps together, and Jude opened the door, held it for her. She went inside, and he followed, closing the doors softly behind them. The fire had burned down to embers, but the room was warm. Violet lit a lamp, set it on the table, and turned to him. He was watching her, his face soft in the golden light.
What are you thinking?
That I would do it all again. Every mile, every risk, every moment. If it brought me here.
She crossed the room, took his hands in hers.
You are home now.
I know.
He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her, and she rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. They stood like that for a long time, the lamp flickering, the night settling around them. Finally, she pulled back, looked up at him.
Come to bed.
Yes.
They climbed the narrow stairs to the loft, undressed in the dim light, and slipped under the quilts. The bed was small, but they fit together, her back against his chest, his arm around her waist. Outside, the wind whispered through the pines, and somewhere far off, a coyote howled. Violet closed her eyes, felt his breath warm against her hair.
I love you.
I love you too.
Sleep came easy. The next morning, they woke to sunlight streaming through the window, the smell of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. Violet turned in his arms, kissed him awake, and he smiled.
Morning.
Morning.
They dressed, went downstairs, and she made breakfast while he fed the chickens. They ate together at the small table, planning the day, the week, the months ahead. There was work to do, always work, but they would do it together. When spring came, they rode out to check the herd, the grass greening under the horses' hooves, the sky wide and blue. The cattle were healthy, the calves growing strong. Violet reined in her horse at the top of a ridge, looked out over the valley. Jude pulled up beside her.
Beautiful.
It is.
She looked at him, and he looked back, and she knew. This was it. This was the life she had fought for. The life she had almost lost. And it was good. Better than she had imagined. They rode back as the sun set, side by side, the horses' hooves thudding softly on the packed earth. When they reached the ranch, Jude dismounted, helped her down, and she leaned into him.
Thank you.
For what?
For staying. For fighting. For loving me.
Always.
He kissed her, long and slow, and she felt the truth of it in her bones. They would have more hard days, more struggles, more winters to survive. But they would face them together. And that was enough. That was everything. They walked to the house, hand in hand, the door open, the fire waiting. Inside, the music box sat on the mantel, its secret told, its burden lifted. Violet glanced at it as they passed, then looked away. The past was done. The future stretched before them, bright and uncertain, and theirs. They stepped inside, and Jude closed the door, and the world outside faded. There was only this, only them, only the quiet joy of being home. Summer came, hot and dry. The ranch thrived under their care. Violet expanded the garden, planting rows of tomatoes, beans, and squash. Jude repaired the fence lines, reinforced the barn, and brought in 2 young steers to build the herd. They worked from dawn until dusk, their hands rough and their bodies tired. But every night, they fell asleep together, content. In July, a letter arrived from Boise. Pembroke had been convicted. 20 years hard labor. The news spread through Whispering Pines, and the town exhaled a collective relief. The new sheriff, a serious man from Montana, cleaned house. The corrupt deputies were fired. The smuggling routes were shut down. Trade resumed, honest and open. Violet received an apology from the land office, a formal acknowledgement that her title had always been legitimate. Jude framed it, hung it on the wall above the fireplace. One evening, in late August, they sat on the porch, watching the sun drop behind the mountains. Violet leaned against him, her head on his shoulder.
Do you ever regret it? Leaving the bank. Coming here.
Never. Not once.
Even when the work is hard.
Especially then.
She smiled, closed her eyes. The chickens clucked in the yard. The horses grazed in the pasture. Everything was as it should be.
I am glad you stayed.
Me too.
They sat in silence, the air cooling, the stars beginning to appear. Violet thought about her mother, about the music box, about all the years she had spent alone, holding on. She had been so afraid of needing someone, so sure that dependence meant weakness. But Jude had taught her otherwise. Love was not a loss of strength. It was a doubling of it. She reached for his hand, laced her fingers through his.
I want to build something bigger. Expand the herd. Maybe hire a hand next year.
I will help. Whatever you need.
I know.
He kissed the top of her head, and she felt the warmth of it spread through her chest. They had come so far, risked so much, and they had won. Not because they were lucky, but because they had chosen each other, again and again, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Fall returned, the air sharpening, the leaves turning gold. They prepared for winter, stacking firewood, salting meat, storing grain. Violet taught Jude how to can vegetables, and he teased her about her precision. But he learned. They laughed more now, easy and free. One night in October, a year after they had first met, Jude built a fire in the hearth and pulled Violet onto his lap. She protested, laughing, but settled against him.
Do you remember this night? Last year?
The dance hall.
Yes.
I remember.
He held her close, his chin resting on her shoulder.
I almost left. That morning. I almost rode back to Boise and forgot all of this.
Why did you not?
You. I could not stop thinking about you. The way you stood up to Pembroke. The way you refused to give up. I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be with someone like that.
Violet turned in his arms, looked into his eyes.
I am glad you stayed. I cannot imagine this without you.
You will never have to.
She kissed him, slow and deep, and he held her like she was the only thing that mattered. Because she was. They were. This life they had built together, this love they had fought for, it was real. It was theirs. And it was enough. Winter came hard that year, snow piling high against the barn, the wind howling through the gaps in the walls. They worked together to keep the animals fed, breaking ice on the water troughs, hauling hay through drifts that reached their knees. Some mornings, Violet woke to find Jude already outside, his breath clouding in the frozen air, his hands raw from the cold. She would bring him coffee, stand beside him while he worked, and he would smile at her, tired but content.
Almost done.
You are going to freeze.
Not with you here.
She rolled her eyes, but she stayed, handing him tools, holding the gate while he repaired a hinge. They had fallen into a rhythm, each knowing what the other needed before a word was spoken. It was not the life she had imagined as a girl, but it was better. It was real. By February, supplies were running low. Jude rode into town for flour and salt, returning with news that Pembroke had been sentenced to 20 years in the territorial prison. The judge had been thorough, the evidence overwhelming. Violet felt a weight lift from her shoulders.
It is over.
Yes.
She exhaled, long and slow, and Jude pulled her into his arms.
You are safe now.
We are safe.
He nodded, held her tighter. That night, they sat by the fire, the music box on the table between them. Violet reached for it, opened the lid, let the melody play. It was bittersweet, a reminder of everything she had lost and everything she had gained. Jude took her hand, squeezed gently.
Your mother would be proud.
I hope so.
She closed the box, set it back on the mantel. The past had its place, but it did not own her anymore. She had a future now, and it was full of promise. Spring arrived late, the snow melting slowly, the ground soft and muddy. Violet and Jude rode out to check the herd, counting calves, marking the new births. The numbers were good, better than she had expected. They could expand, maybe buy the adjacent parcel if it came up for sale.
We could build a second barn, store more hay, take on more cattle.
Ambitious.
Always.
He grinned, and she laughed. They rode back in the golden light of evening, the valley spread out below them, green and alive. When they reached the ranch, Jude dismounted, then lifted Violet down, his hands on her waist. She looked up at him, her heart full.
Thank you. For all of this.
Thank you for letting me stay.
She kissed him, soft and sure, and he wrapped his arms around her. They stood like that, the horses cropping grass nearby, the sun sinking low. Everything they had fought for, everything they had risked, had led to this moment. And it was perfect. In April, Violet discovered she was pregnant. She told Jude one morning at breakfast, her voice steady, but her hands shaking. He froze, fork halfway to his mouth, then set it down carefully.
Are you sure?
Yes.
He stood, came around the table, pulled her to her feet and into his arms.
A baby.
Yes.
Our baby.
She nodded against his chest, and he laughed, a sound of pure joy. He spun her around, and she yelped, swatting his shoulder.
Careful.
Sorry. Sorry. I cannot believe it.
He set her down gently, cupped her face in his hands.
You are going to be a mother.
And you are going to be a father.
His eyes shone, and he kissed her, tender and reverent. They stood in the kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, and Violet felt a happiness so complete it almost frightened her. She had spent so many years alone, guarding herself, afraid to hope. And now, she had everything. A home, a partner, a child on the way. It was more than she had ever dared to dream. The pregnancy was not easy. Morning sickness kept her in bed for weeks, and Jude took over the morning chores, moving quietly so as not to wake her. He brought her tea, crackers, anything that might settle her stomach.
You need to rest.
I need to work.
The ranch will survive. Rest.
She wanted to argue, but she was too tired. She slept through the afternoons, waking to find Jude reading beside the bed, his hand resting on her hip. By summer, she felt stronger. Her belly began to show, a gentle curve beneath her dresses. Jude was endlessly fascinated, his hand always finding its way to her stomach, his face lighting up whenever the baby kicked.
Did you feel that?
I felt it.
Strong. Like the mother.
She smiled, covered his hand with hers.
Or the father.
They spent the long evenings planning, choosing names, imagining the future. Violet wanted to teach the child to ride, to handle the ranch, to be strong and independent. Jude wanted to teach patience, kindness, how to see beauty in small things. They argued, laughing, neither willing to concede.
Our child will be stubborn.
Like you.
Like both of us.
He grinned, kissed her forehead.
God help us.
In September, Violet went into labor. It was long and hard, the midwife from town coaching her through each contraction, while Jude paced outside, helpless and terrified. When the baby finally came, a healthy girl with a strong cry, the midwife wrapped her and handed her to Violet. Jude burst into the room, his face pale, and froze when he saw them.
Is she?
Perfect. She is perfect.
He came to the bed, sat beside them, and Violet placed the baby in his arms. He held her like she was made of glass, his eyes wide with wonder.
She has your eyes.
And your chin.
What will we call her?
Rose. After my mother.
Rose Donovan.
He looked at Violet, and she nodded. It felt right. The baby fussed, and Jude handed her back, watching as Violet settled her against her chest. The midwife cleaned up, gave instructions, and left them alone. The three of them, a family. Jude lay down beside Violet, his arm around her shoulders, and they gazed at their daughter.
I never thought I would have this.
Neither did I.
Thank you.
For what?
For trusting me. For letting me in. For giving me this.
Violet turned her head, kissed him softly.
I love you.
I love you too. Both of you.
Rose made a small sound, and they both smiled. Outside, the sun was setting over the valley, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The ranch stretched out before them, the land they had fought for, the home they had built together. It had not been easy. There had been fear, danger, loss, but they had survived. They had chosen each other, again and again. And that choice had made all the difference. Violet closed her eyes, exhausted but content. Jude's hand found hers, their fingers twining together. Rose slept between them, safe and warm. This was the life she had dreamed of, the life she had fought for. And it was theirs, forever.